This broadcast will start in 15 seconds. This broadcast will start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Voice of Stockton. For more information on The Voice of Stockton, go to thevoiceofstockton.org.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS The Voice of Stockton or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another amazing episode of the Phone Booth here on KXVS, The Voice of Stockton. My name is Ed Heitman, and joining me in the studio today is my good friend and co-host, Brian Rodriguez.
Hello.
How you doing today, man?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Good to hear, good to hear. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the show, The Phone Booth is a show completely dedicated to pop culture. Anything from movies to TV shows to video games to comic books, you name it, and we do our very best to cover it. Now, in our last episode, we had the amazing opportunity of covering San Diego Comic-Con International around the time that it had just recently come out and everything. Now, there might be a little bit of tidbits of news here and there that we might have during its final days, but for the most part, it's about settled down, wouldn't you say, Brian?
Yep. Yeah, you know, we got most of it.
Yeah, just about. So, as anyways, time goes on. So now, before we enter our discussion pieces, we have quite a little bit of news here, luckily. Even though San Diego's been around, and usually with these big events, news starts to trickle down, we were able to gather up some stuff for you guys to consider. So I'll lead us off with the recap of the week. At San Diego Comic-Con, at the panel for Sony's Venom movie, it has been confirmed that Riz Ahmed will be playing as Dr. Carlton Drake, aka Riot. Dr. Carlton Drake is a billionaire who works at Life Foundation, a company that wishes to find the answer to humanity's future. Dr. Drake believes that humanity's future lies in outer space, which leads him to finding the symbiote. Eventually, he will get a taste of the symbiote's power as well, in which he will become Riot, a symbiotic alien that was featured in the Venom Lethal Protector comic book series. Now, I'm really excited about this because I was kind of afraid that Venom's main enemy in this movie was going to be like some kind of a government agency, like a bunch of soldiers just constantly hunting him down, but now we have confirmed evidence that one of the main villains in the Venom movie is in fact going to be a symbiote as well.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know a ton about Venom villains. I really just know Carnage, but it sounds interesting. You know, it seems like it'll be an interesting villain. And, you know, again, I'm glad it's not just going to be the government is the bad guy.
Yeah, same here, because Venom has too much potential to just have his enemy be nothing more than a troop of soldiers. Because when the first Hulk movie came out, even though in the end we did get a super-powered villain, it kind of upset me that most of the time his enemy was just nothing more than the army. But anyways, that's enough of that little bit of news, and we're going to go back and forth here talking about news pieces. So Brian, I'll leave this next one to you.
One of the upcoming DC projects that we're excited to see is the standalone Joker movie starring Joaquin Phoenix, directed by Todd Phillips and produced by Martin Scorsese. They've been looking for someone to play the Joker's mom, and it's been rumored that Thomas Wayne, father of Batman, is going to be making an appearance in the film. However, this isn't the only thing that's caught our eye. It's rumored that Robert De Niro, acclaimed actor who's been in numerous films like Taxi, Goodfellas, Godfather, all that great stuff, this is going to be playing a role in the film. It's rumored that he's in talks to do it. And this comes from The Hollywood Reporter that says that he is in talks to play a late-night host that will play a pivotal role in the Joker's origin.
Interesting. What are your thoughts on that, man?
I think it's good. I like Robert De Niro. I think he could do this role well. He's been doing more comedic stuff lately, I've noticed.
Yeah.
A lot of his serious stuff was, back in the 90s and early 2000s, but now he's transitioned over to comedy, which, if he wants to do that, that's fine. It's like Steve Carell transferring over to, drama.
Yeah, that's a good point that you brought up, Steve Carell, because there are actors out there that focus on a specific genre of acting, and all these actors are now trying their very best to branch out of it. I know Jason Statham was more known for his high-octane action films, but he's openly stated he wants to go more into the comedy or cheesy action territory.
Like the Meg.
Like the Meg, which I am so excited for once it finally comes out. Then we have Robert De Niro, who might potentially come into the serious role again after his time doing comedy. I know Al Pacino took a shot at comedy as well when he did Jack and Jill, but a lot of people in Hollywood don't really like to talk about Jack and Jill.
I think a lot of people in Hollywood don't really like to talk about Al Pacino anymore.
Yeah, it's a fair point. But the fact that he's playing as a late-night talk show host, I think is awesome, because in one of the main origin stories for the Joker is that he was a failed comedian. He tried desperately to do stand-up, appear on shows and everything, and people would always mock him and stuff, which would eventually lead to him snapping, that one bad day that changes people. So the fact that they got Robert De Niro to potentially play as this role, if it does end up being a significant benefactor, because they teased at it being a significant benefactor, then I'm really excited to see the interactions between him and Joaquin Phoenix. Mm-hmm. It's going to be really good.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll take over this next little bit of news. Turns out Ryan Reynolds is planning on making a stoner version of Home Alone. According to a report from Deadline, the movie's title will be Stoned Alone. The premise will be about a man who decides to spend his holidays getting high after missing a flight to a ski trip, only to realize later on that thieves are breaking into his house. No casting has been announced as of yet, but it's possible that Mr. Reynolds might star in the movie as well as produce it, and we'll keep you guys informed if any more news on this breaks out. Now, I'm genuinely excited about this, man, because I've always kind of had a soft spot for stoner comedies. I'm a huge fan of Half-Baked, Pineapple Express, stuff like that. So to hear that they're doing another one, but they're also going to take a spin on an original classic. I mean, I never really watched too much of the Home Alone films myself, but I am looking forward to this, especially with the fact that Ryan Reynolds is going to be taking the reins on it. What are your thoughts, man?
I'm not a huge fan of stoner movies, but I do like Ryan Reynolds, so it seems interesting. I'm wondering if it's going to be, like an actual remake of Home Alone, or if it's just going to be an homage.
Yeah, it's a possibility, but from what I've gathered, this seems to be like a complete retake on the premise. It's not necessarily going to be an installment into the Home Alone franchise, but it is going to take a lot of elements that was very popular in the Home Alone series. I mean, I hope that he still has all the booby traps set and all that stuff, because it was fun seeing a little kid do it. But I'm kind of interested in seeing how a grown person would handle these kind of traps and stuff like that. Anyways, Brian, I'll pass this next little bit of news over to you.
So in case you weren't aware, there is a Charlie's Angels reboot in the mix, currently being handled by Pitch Perfect star Elizabeth Banks. And it turns out we have some casting for that. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Kristen Stewart, Naomi Banks, and Ella Balinski have been confirmed that they will be starring as the titular Angels, with Banks playing the role of Bosley, a role previously handled by Bill Murray and Bernie Mac. No word on when the movie will come out or who will be doing the voice of Charlie, but the rumored plot is that Charlie's Angels have gone international. There are multiple teams of angels operating around the world, solving problems, and this is both a reboot and sequel to the previous Charlie's Angels series.
Now, I like the premise of that, the fact that they're talking about Charlie's Angels going international, because it felt to me like whenever they would do a movie or a reboot, they always had to get somebody to play as the original Angels. We never really got to see people just be extra angels into the agency and stuff. So with this being in mind, we were able to see a lot more actresses take on the role without necessarily having to look like the original. Mm-hmm. But, of course, what I'm really interested in, what I'm dying to hear about, but I still haven't heard anything about yet, ladies and gentlemen, is who's going to play the role of Charlie. Because even though it's just a voice, it's still a very, very important role into the series, Mm-hmm. Just spitballing, what do you think would be a good role for Charlie?
Someone with a good, sort of strong voice. Maybe, mm-hmm. Honestly, there's so many actors that could do it.
That's
or maybe
true.
They, recast Charlie as a woman.
Hey, it's a possibility. I mean, seeing as Bosley was a guy in all the other Charlie's Angels ones, handled by Bill Murray, Bernie Mac, and stuff like that. It's got the possibility of it potentially being a woman.
Mm-hmm. An entirely female-led action movie would, It's a rare thing in Hollywood, but it would probably make a good chunk of money if they did it and did it
Yeah.
well.
It has the potential for being really good, but at the same time, they would also have to be really careful not to have that be the sole premise, because they tried the same thing when they did a complete reboot of Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And that one didn't really turn out too well. But, I
No.
mean, if they do make it a gender-swapped reboot and continue to focus on the action and the dialogue and all that stuff, I'm all for it. You know, as long as it's just not focused on anything in particular. So I'll move over to the next little bit of news here, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of reboots, it would seem as though Disney is planning on a live-action remake of the 1955 Disney classic Lady and the Tramp, which will premiere on Disney's own streaming service, because everybody wants to be like Netflix now.
Yep.
And it turns out we already have 2 confirmed roles for this project. According to Dateline, Ashley Jensen, who was recently in Extra, Catastrophe, and Sherlock Gnomes, will be playing as Jackie, a gender-swapped version of Jack, a loyal supporter of Lady. And according to Collider, Justin Theroux, who made an appearance in The Last Jedi, and soon to be in The Spy Who Dumped Me, starring Mila Kunis, will be playing the iconic role of Tramp. No plot details have been given yet, nor has there been a release date, but we will keep you well informed. Now, I understand that it's a bit of a trend to take old school Disney films and try and make them live action.
It's like half of Disney's lineup for the next decade.
Yeah, I mean, we got that with, we got Cinderella, we got The Jungle Book, there's an Aladdin live action reboot that's in the
Yeah,
works.
Dumbo, there's a Mulan one in the works, there's Lady and the Tramp now, I believe there's a Peter Pan one from them in the works. I think there were rumors of a... Oh God, what was it? I think they did Maleficent, they're doing a sequel to Maleficent now,
Yeah.
which is like a live-action Sleeping Beauty, but at least that has a unique take on it. I don't remember if they were one of like 3 studios back in 2012 to try to do a live-action Snow White, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were. I mean, there's the live-action Lion King coming out with Donald Glover, I forgot about that.
Oh, man.
So many.
Yeah,
I think there's a live-action Little Mermaid in the works, too.
and you know what? And as much as I admit that it's been very, very common for old school Disney films to turn into live action adaptations, I also think that it's a really, really good thing, because there are indeed a lot of old school Disney classics that a lot of kids nowadays, they don't necessarily get the opportunity to watch as frequently as Pixar films that come out nowadays, like Frozen and Moana and stuff. More kids are tending to watch those as opposed to the Disney classics. So the fact that all of these are becoming live-action reboots and they're coming back into the public eye is a really great opportunity for Disney to show people its originality, its roots, where it came from and everything, while also editing everything to be a bit more appealing to the current times and whatnot. Because with all these live-action stuff, they do look great. What we've seen from the Lion King live adaptation looks fantastic.
Yeah, the casting, they've actually renamed some of the hyenas to give them actual African names.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. And then also at the same time, we also got one of my favorite live-action adaptations that we'd gotten from Disney so far was The Jungle Book. Everything looked fantastic, from the creatures to the environment and all that. I fell in love with all of it. So I am looking forward to hearing a bit more about the Lady and the Tramp reboot. However, one thing has been left uncertain is whether or not this will take place back in the 1900s or if this will take place during the 2000s era. And if it does take place in the 2000s era, it'd be a great opportunity to do a new spin on the classic tale of Lady and the Tramp. Though personally, though, I'm a little 50-50 on if they decide to ever do a live-action reboot of the sequel. Didn't really care much for the sequel myself.
I don't. Given Disney's current strategy with them, which is like almost shot-for-shot remakes just in live action, it'll probably be set during the 1900s.
Yeah, it's a possibility. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that was it for that little bit of news. So, Brian, why don't you pass it on to the next little topic?
Yes. David Tennant, known as the 10th Doctor in Doctor Who, has joined the cast of Rooster Teeth's new animated series, Genlock. Tennant will be playing the role of Dr. Rufus Weller, naturally, and joining cast members Michael B. Jordan and Dakota Fanning. Genlock is set in a dystopian future where cultural differences are solved through mecha battles and follows the young pilots of said mechas. Now, I am super excited for this. A, because I love Rooster Team, and I love the team creating this show, and I also just love David Tennant. I love David Tennant so much.
David Tennant is indeed a really, really good actor. I haven't really got to see too much of his work outside of Doctor Who, but definitely from what I've seen so far, David Tennant is one of my favorite doctors by far. I love the way he interacts with people and his sense of humor. I also heard that he was in Jessica Jones as a leading antagonist.
Yeah, he was Kilgrave, the main villain of the first season, and I've heard he makes an appearance in the second season, though I haven't watched it yet. I need to.
Okay, and I also heard that recently David Tennant was in a recent horror film where he was playing as a psychopath or a serial killer. But from what I had seen from there, he does a good job as playing serious roles as well. Yeah. So I am looking forward to this. Though I do admit I'm not familiar with a lot of the stuff that's in Rooster Teeth. I do watch Ruby, and the first thing that got me into Rooster Teeth from the very beginning was Red vs. Blue. But I am definitely looking forward to this. Hopefully we get to hear a little bit more at RTX.
Yeah, RTX next weekend.
Awesome. Can't wait. On to the next topic. Lucasfilm has announced the cast for Star Wars Episode 9. The cast list was mostly what you would expect, including Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, and other returning stars, as well as newcomers Naomi Ackel, Kerry Russell, and Richard E. Grant. However, the most significant announcement was that Carrie Fisher will in fact be appearing in the film. Now, Lucasfilm stated that they'll be using unused footage from Episode 7. Noticeably missing from the list was Gwendolyn Christie, which means that Captain Phasma's fate in The Last Jedi may have been final. Now, this is really interesting, the fact that they're going to try and incorporate General Leia into the movie, considering that she had passed away. But though I do admit it is a nice strategy to use unused footage from Episode 7.
Yeah, it's always been rumored that there was like a bigger plot line involving Leia in Episode 7 that just got cut because it didn't quite fit in with the film. So maybe that's what this is going to be. They're just moving it ahead. I mean, they have the footage, and they could probably make characters interact with her either if they were already in the scenes, or they could CG them in.
Definitely. And she's not the only person that's supposed to be implemented into the film. Mark Hamill's supposed to make a return as Luke Skywalker, even though we saw him supposedly pass away in The Last Jedi. Force Ghost. It is a definite possibility. And it also was confirmed that Billy D. Williams is going to be appearing in Episode 9 as his original role, Lando Calrissian, which I'm also looking forward to, the fact that all these classic characters are going to return. And it's also been stated that Episode 9 is going to be the end of the Skywalker saga, which is a pretty big thing to say, considering the fact that afterwards, it's just open ground for whatever the Star Wars universe can lead up to.
Yep, end of the 9-movie saga of Skywalker screwing up the galaxy.
Yep, definitely. All right, Brian, I'll let you handle the next topic, man.
Okay, it's over, people. The long, arduous journey that is the Disney-Fox merger is finally over.
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
Yep, Fox shareholders overwhelmingly voted to approve the deal, with only one shareholder dissenting, feeling Disney was spending too much money on this, which is interesting.
Well, I mean, there is the fact that when the Disney-Fox merger started, it was supposed to be around like $17 billion.
$54 billion.
Yeah, $54 billion, but then Comcast came in and started throwing extra bids in as well, so the price just got higher and higher and higher and all that stuff.
But they have accepted the bid for $71.3 million, and it looks like this may be the end. There are still a few legal hurdles to go over, but they got the clear from the DOJ last month to go forward with the merger as long as Disney agrees to sell off Fox's local sports affiliates, because that could risk creating a monopoly if they had them.
Definitely.
But it looks like Disney's family just got a whole lot bigger.
Oh yeah, a whole lot bigger, because there are a lot of channels that are affiliated with 20th Century Fox, because there is the movie aspect, 20th Century Fox Films, but then there's also channels like FX, FXX, all the Fox News channels.
They are not getting Fox News.
They're not getting the Fox News channels? Okay, well that is a relief. But basically anything that was affiliated with Fox, even original property rights such as The Simpsons and stuff like that, are all going to be property of Disney whenever this deal goes through.
Maybe they'll finally kill Family Guy.
Hey, well, I mean, there is hope, but I mean, Family Guy doesn't seem to be a show that is going to be going away anytime soon. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that was about it for the weekly wrap-up. now we're going to enter our next little segment that I like to call Trailer Talk. Now, with most weeks, there are some trailers for good movies that come out and released into Hollywood and whatnot. And we have 3 trailers here that we want to talk about with you guys. So let's get started into Trailer Talk. Starting off is the second trailer for Alita Battle Angel, starring Rosa Salazar, Christoph Waltz, and others. Set several centuries in the future, the abandoned Alita is found in the scrapyard of Iron City by Ido, a compassionate cyber doctor who takes the unconscious cyborg Alita into his clinic. When Alita awakens, she has no memory of who she is, nor does she have any recognition of the world she finds herself in. As Alita learns to navigate her new life and the treacherous streets of Iron City, Ido tries to shield her from her mysterious past, and this is directed by Robert Rodriguez. Now, from the trailer that I had seen, the action scenes look pretty good. There was just one glaring, bug-eyed problem in this trailer, and that was Alita's eyes. They throw me off, man.
And they've actually been altered so they're smaller since the first trailer. I think they heard the complaints about that and actually shrunk them down a bit, but they're still just... It's creepy.
It really is. Everybody else seems to have regular human eyes.
Yeah,
and
she has anime eyes. She's giant eyes in her head, which in anime, looks fine, because A, everyone has them, and B, it's animated. But in this, she's the only one with these eyes, and it's live action. It's...
It's so unsettling, but besides the bug eyes, the rest of the movie seems to be pretty good. I mean, the action scenes between Alita and the various robots that she encounters, each with their own unique little abilities. I saw a guy who seemed to have like tentacles, mechanical kind of tentacles and stuff like that. But from what I had seen, the action looked pretty good. What were your thoughts on the action scenes?
They looked really good. The effects looked really good, and we only get to see small parts but if they're choreographed well, I think they could be amazing. This movie looks like it could be great. It just has to be done well, which sounds really stupid when I say it out loud, but...
Hey, with movies coming out lately and their quality, it's important that we emphasize that they have to do it good. Yeah. Because there's always slip-ups and all that stuff. I'll talk about the next trailer, Brian, because I know you're not much of a fan of horror movies and or memes, so I'll do this next one. This trailer is the second trailer for the Slender Man movie, starring Joey King, Javier Bolet, Talitha Bateman, Annalise Basso, Jazz Sinclair, and others. Terror strikes when 4 teenage girls in a small town perform a ritual to debunk the lore of a tall, thin, horrifying figure known as the Slender Man. They soon fear that the legend is true when one of them suddenly goes missing, and this is directed by Sylvain White. Now, I just want to clarify that Slender Man's he's not necessarily new to the silver screen. We've had YouTube series, Marble Hornets, Everyman Hybrid, and we also had the Marble Hornets movie. However, with the exception that in the Marble Hornets universe, Slender Man is referred to as the Operator, and he's got his own little mythologies and all that stuff. But this is a legit Slender Man movie. We're going to see him basically stalk these girls constantly, and they're dealt with slender sickness, which according to the Slender fan page, that is a thing, ladies and gentlemen. Slender sickness is after you see him, he is constantly everywhere. You start getting constant night terrors, you start getting insomnia and all that stuff. So they're basically just going to try and figure out a way for them to deal with the Slender Man. Now, what are your thoughts on the idea of this movie, Brian?
I think this movie is stupid. I think the production behind it is stupid. I think the 2 different lawsuits going on about it are stupid. I think we've just reached a cultural stupidity peak now. I mean, we've got the Emoji movie. We've got the Slender Man movie. We've got the Boss Baby getting nominated for an Oscar. What is happening? What has happened to us?
And don't forget, The Boss Baby does have a sequel in the works over at Netflix. So I guess there is an audience out there who's interested in these kind of films, but it's Slender Man. I mean, sure, the video game Slender was pretty fun. I mean, everybody enjoys a good little jump scare, but people quickly evolved from Slender to Five Nights at Freddy's, and if that gets made into a movie, I'm going to be angry.
It is being made by a movie, directed by Christopher Columbus. Not Christopher Columbus, Chris Columbus. 2 different people. What's happening to my brain? The stupidity of this is starting to take over.
I'm so angry, but my little brother's gonna be so excited because he's a diehard Five Nights at Freddy's fanatic.
Yeah, but see, Five Nights at Freddy's has built up a strong lore and mythology around it over 6 or 7 games at this point. Slender is a freaking meme.
Yeah, that is true, but I mean, perhaps some of the audience out there is interested in the movie, and if you are, the trailer links are provided in our description and whatnot, so be sure to give that a good look. Now, Brian, since this doesn't involve horror and or memes, this is more of a science fiction one,
Yeah.
I will let you talk about this upcoming trailer.
Okay, the next one is I Think We're Alone Now, starring Peter Dinklage, Elle Fanning, Paul Giamatti, and others. After a catastrophe destroys most of humanity, a recluse lives in a small, empty town, content with the utopia he's methodically built for himself, until an interloper appears and disrupts his solitude. Directed by Reed Romana. Now, this one looks good.
It really does.
It looks like what I wanted the TV show The Last Man on Earth to be before it sort of went downhill. It's not necessarily a comedy as far as we know. It looks more like a science fiction drama.
Yeah, this is classified as a sci-fi film.
Mm-hmm. And it's Peter Dinklage just sort of living alone in his hometown. You see him walking around the streets, and there are these big white X's painted on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure, maybe that's a side effect of the people suddenly disappearing or whatever happened. Maybe he put them there himself just to mark where people disappeared. It's built up such a great atmosphere around it, and such sort of this great visual storytelling, which is so hard to find in movies now. Visual storytelling, not just, storytelling, but little things in the background that you can see and create a story out of it.
Oh, no, you did a very good point. The trailer, even though it has all this amazing storytelling aspects, a lot of these little tidbits here and there that make you really wonder what happened, this trailer was very, very short. It was very short. We just see him wander through little parts of the town, and he comes across a crashed car, and we hear a little bit of dialogue in the background. But I gotta agree with you, Brian. This whole thing has an amazing atmosphere. It reminds me of this one video game called Everybody's Gone to the Rapture.
Yes.
Where you are the sole person left in this town, and everybody else has vanished. And you don't know why they vanished. They're just gone.
Hopefully, it's much better than that game was.
Well, I mean, it had potential at first. It did have potential at first when you're walking around and discovering what exactly is going on and whatnot. But as Yahtzee described in his zero punctuation review of the game, it did feel a little bit like forced storytelling at times.
That's what the Chinese room does. They don't want to actually generate actual AI or anything. This isn't a review of Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. This is trailer talk.
Yeah, this is just a comparison. Just a comparison. But aside from that, even though we didn't really get to see him talk, we heard his dialogue in the background. Peter Dinklage is the way he acted in this trailer, it seemed really interesting. He seemed very glum, but also very content with the world that he's created and everything. And once he sees the car, you see him suddenly get this look of shock, like, oh my god, somebody's possibly here and all that stuff.
Peter Dinklage is perfect, and I defy you to prove me wrong.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, that's a good point. If any of you think that Peter Dinklage was not a good actor, feel free to give us reasons as to why. We'd be happy to hear them and possibly refute those statements as well. And that about does it for Trailer Talk, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, we have the links to these trailers available in the description section of this video, so be sure to check it out. But stay tuned. Now, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into our discussion pieces. Now, this week, I figured, before we go into your little Destiny rant and everything, I wanted to talk about the potential future of Hollywood. Now, as we stated earlier, the Disney-Fox deal is officially done. With just a few more hurdles to jump through, and then it'll be official. 20th Century Fox will be a part of the Disney family. Now, while it just seems like a little bit of paperwork, this is a very, very big jump in the entertainment industry. This could potentially ripple through everything. Yep. There are a lot of rights in play. They have the rights to the X-Men film franchise, even though it's a property of Marvel. Disney will still have the rights to that, which is a good thing because Disney also owns the MCU. So perhaps we'll get better quality X-Men films, and we'll even be able to see them interact with the Avengers. I know a lot of people have been dying to see an X-Men versus Avengers movie because there was a comic series based on that, and that comic series was amazing.
Hugh Jackman has also said that it's the only way he will return to play Wolverine is if it's in an X-Men versus Avengers movie.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm fine with that. I wanted for a long time to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine interact with these popular Avengers and all that stuff. But at the same time, there are other movies that they own the rights to as well. I believe 20th Century Fox has the rights to the Alien and Predator franchise.
Yep.
They have the rights. They have the sole rights to The Simpsons because The Simpsons is a property of 20th Century Fox. In subcategories, there's Family Guy, there's American Dad, there's all these different things out there that are all associated with Disney, and it makes me worry that once this deal is official, all these shows, all these properties are going to have a total change of tone. You know, like. Perhaps certain shows that focus more on crude comedy, like Family Guy and American Dad, will suddenly have to be like way more toned down because they're now part of the Disney family and they have to appeal to younger audiences as well, when that was never the original intent of the shows.
And see, I'm not sure that's going to be an issue because these shows make money. And they make money because of what they do. And I think Disney, as long as they keep them under the Fox banner and sort of separate from like ABC and Disney, as long as there's enough degrees of separation, they'll be willing to let these things continue.
Yeah, it's a definite possibility, but I just can't help but like be a little afraid, you know? I mean, this is a really good thing, but at the same time, there's also potential for bad things to happen. There's rumors in the works that perhaps within this deal is official, X-Men Dark Phoenix, the next installment of the X-Men film franchise, and New Mutants, an X-Men show that's focusing more on the horror genre, might get canned entirely. Now, with Dark Phoenix, I don't necessarily mind, because with 20th Century Fox's X-Men franchise, it is really difficult to pay attention to the timelines. Yeah. Things are always jumping around everywhere.
I don't think they're going to outright cancel them, because these movies are mostly filmed. Right now, they're just in the reshoot post-production phase. So at this point, all Disney really needs to do, because the deal isn't even through yet, they're not responsible for this yet. These films may even be done before the deal goes all the way through.
True.
Because if they need to do it, they'll only be responsible for distribution, which is pretty much just free money for them, because they haven't spent a dime on this. Well, it's up to $71.3 billion to buy the entire...
Yep.
But still, there's no reason for them not to release them, but they might not continue any of this after them.
Yeah, that's true. That is very, very true. Now, aside from the Disney-Fox merger, there are other things out there that could potentially change Hollywood. And in particular, I want to talk about Star Wars. Because while there has been a bit of a divisive fan base going on over whether or not Star Wars is really the best movie out there anymore, the fan base is tearing itself apart and whatnot, it has always been a very crucial element to the sci-fi franchise. When you ask somebody what was your favorite old school sci-fi movie, there are a good number of people who will say Star Wars, Episode 4, 5, or 6. Some people say the prequels, some people mention the new trilogies, and all that stuff. But as we stated earlier, Episode 9 is going to be the very end of the Skywalker saga, which is something that's been tied throughout all of the Star Wars movies we've encountered so far. Now, with this new trilogy that's going to come out afterwards, that Rian Johnson, the director of Episode 8?
Yep.
Yeah, the director of Episode 8, he's going to have complete control over the new trilogy. Now, I kind of wondered what the potential future is going to be. Are we going to keep Rey and Finn? Are we going to get new characters? Are we going to get new enemies? Is this going to take place after the events of Episode 9? Or is this going to take place back around the old days, around the time of the old Empire and stuff like that? I mean, the old Republic, my apologies. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on this, man?
Well, Rian Johnson has said that the new trilogy will be completely separate from the Skywalkers. So I don't think Finn or Rey or anyone from the new trilogy is going to be appearing in it. But he also said it won't be focused on the KOTOR timeline, the Knights of the Old Republic won't be focusing on that time period. I'm thinking it's probably going to be set, 100, 1,000 years after whatever Episode 9 ends up being titled, and it's just, new evil empire, new republic, new characters, new Jedi, new Sith. I think they're just going to try to... And if Rian Johnson continues with what he was trying to do in The Last Jedi with a bit less interference, it may have a tonal and sort of thematic shift from the Skywalker saga as well. Because in, the expanded universe, they don't portray the Jedi as these, good guys and the Sith are bad guys. There's sort of just two sides of the same coin, which is sort of what Rian Johnson tried to pull off in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But was somewhat handicapped by studio intervention.
Mm-hmm. And I agree. When with The Last Jedi, it was completely evident that he was trying to point out that the Sith are terrible people, but at the same time, the Jedi are also an unneeded presence in the universe as well. And in order for there to be peace again, they'd have to find a way to get rid of the Jedi and the Sith. And I remember at the very end of The Last Jedi, Kylo Ren was trying to convince Rey to come with him and leave the Jedi and the Sith, try and start completely over again, get rid of what was in the past and focus on the future. And if this is true, then who knows? We might actually get a whole nother entity aside from the Jedi and the Sith. Maybe we'll get to see some gray Jedi. Mm-hmm. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe something above and beyond. Maybe we'll get some new lore, seeing as all the original Star Wars lore was considered not canon around the time that Episode 7 was taking place. But there's a lot of potential in this. And while a lot of people are upset about it, saying we're so comfortable with the way things used to be, in my opinion, it's a really good time to move on. You know, a lot of people had problems with characters that are in the new trilogy. In this upcoming trilogy afterwards, there's a good chance they're not even going to be involved. We're going to get brand new characters, brand new experiences, brand new enemies, brand new everything. And I just really, really hope that they don't try so hard to have the next installment of the new trilogy to be just like Episode 4.
Yeah, I think that what's going to happen with Episode 9 is we are going to get sort of a retread of The Last Jedi, and I'm not The Last Jedi, Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
Sorry, that always gets me.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be, sort of safe, sort of cookie cutter. Fans are going to like it, but it's not going to do anything new like The Last Jedi tried to do.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping the new series, that if Kathleen Kennedy isn't involved in it, I'm hoping it... I don't hate Kathleen Kennedy, I just don't think she's the best person to be leading the Star Wars franchise right now.
I definitely agree, and apparently the people over at Disney and LucasArts agree as well, because they have been trying to find somebody to take Kathleen Kennedy's place as the head of Lucasfilms, but at the moment they still can't find anybody who would be willing to take her place. Now, there are a couple people that the fandom have been wanting to come up and take the reins of the head of Lucasfilms. I know the person responsible for doing the Clone Wars animated series and Rebels and all that stuff. People want him to take the place as well.
Dave Filoni.
Yeah, and they also I remember J.J. Abrams was once offered the opportunity to take the title, but he immediately turned them down flat, straight up. No, I don't want to do this.
I'm okay with that, because knowing J.J. Abrams, it would somehow turn into a Cloverfield film.
Yeah, it would turn into a Cloverfield movie that would also just be a reboot of every other trilogy we've gotten so far. Yeah. But I just wanted to bring that up because, in pop culture, a lot of people that people are always thinking about is the future of where Hollywood's going to go, regarding our favorite films, regarding everything, regarding the companies that own these films. But that about does it for our discussion piece for this week. Now, in the past, in one of our previous episodes, we had the wonderful opportunity to hear Brian rant about the loot crate system in Destiny, a game that he has a love-hate relationship with.
Yep.
And today, we're going to hear another good old-fashioned rant about what really grinds his gears about Destiny. Brian, take it away.
Story is something that Destiny has always had a problem with. And that's a fairly obvious statement. The vanilla Destiny campaign is well known for being almost non-existent. There's a few cutscenes here and there that just sort of tell you to vaguely go do a thing. Don't worry about why you're doing the thing or what this thing is actually going to do. Oh look, you're in a magical otherworld now. How'd you get here? Don't worry about it. Just kill that giant black ball in the sky. What is that giant black ball? I said don't worry about it. Just kill it. And it got better. The Dark Below had a pretty good... Well, it had an okay story. House of Wolves had one of the best stories in the franchise, I think. There's Taken King, Rise of Iron. And then we get to Destiny 2. So one of the saving graces of Destiny's story, even in vanilla Destiny, was the Grimoire and the lore. Now, the Grimoire was little pieces of lore, little cards that you got for doing activities, collecting items, that could not be viewed directly in-game. They had to go to Destiny's website to view a good chunk of the lore. And I think the lore saved the story. And I'm going to differentiate these two. The story in Destiny is what you play through. It's the missions you do, it's the story, it's the, the gameplay, the main campaign, things like that. The lore is what builds the world around that. It's the Books of Sorrow, this great 50-part backstory for the main villain of the Taken King. None of which you get in-game, but makes him from this psychotic dictator who's massacred galaxies into a vaguely sympathetic character who was just trying to do the best thing they could for their species. And it does this amazing thing. There's the Western story of the Thorn and the Last Word, a classic Western. There's the tale of Osiris, a heretical warlock who got banished from the Last City because he was too obsessed with the Vex. And it's the lore saved Destiny. And you'd think the writers of Destiny would recognize that and try to protect the lore as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to Destiny 2, which is full of retcons, poor writing, and just a whole lot of nonsense. Let's start with the Vex.
Yes.
The Vex in Destiny 1 are a group of time-traveling robots. They converted the planet Mercury into a giant machine designed to help them rewrite time, so they are the only species left standing in the end. And in Destiny, you actually have a raid called the Vault of Glass, which is this giant underground complex on Venus where they literally control the ebb and flow of time.
Wow.
Some of the first people in there were completely erased from existence because one of the Vex in there just has complete control of time in this area. Then we get the Curse of Osiris DLC for Destiny 2. It turns out, the Vex don't actually time travel. They can teleport, and they actually turn Mercury into this giant prediction engine that is so accurate that they teleport to these places that the engine tells them to go to influence time. But they don't actually time travel anymore.
No.
Which, you might notice, directly contradicts the entire purpose of the Vault of Glass. You'll notice they never actually explain how the Vault of Glass works in this new retcon version. I think they're just trusting we won't notice. And how would we notice? They've completely erased the Grimoire from their official site. The only way to read it now is from a fan site. And they have since said that everything in the... Sorry about that. Everything... Microphone got mad at me. Everything in the Grimoire is folklore. Folklore. Including first-hand detailed accounts of meetings in the tower, first-hand detailed meetings in the Vault of Glass, these first-hand sources from characters, some of which is actually corroborated in Destiny 2. Apparently just folklore. And then we get to Warmind.
Oh, man.
Okay. Little backstory. The Warminds, plural, are giant computers built by humanity. They're these giant AIs built before the giant alien invasion that ended our civilization. They are incredibly smart. They hold power beyond our comprehension. I mean, this is beyond nukes. This is beyond anything humanity has built today. They could decimate moons. They managed to keep a god from leaving Earth. They are so powerful. So Warmind comes around. And despite the fact that it's been stated multiple times that there are many Warminds, and that one, Rasputin, is the first among equals, implying multiple, they've actually named other Warminds. Apparently Rasputin's the only Warmind now.
What?
Yeah. It's not like the title first among equals and the fact that you named other war mines. Well, now these are just sub-mines. They're, smaller war mines that are lesser than Rasputin. The first among equals. They retcon Rasputin. They take Anna Bray, a character who canonically died. This character is dead. And they bring her back with no explanation. She's just sort of there.
What?
No idea. She disappears and is stated to be dead. And she's just back. They don't even try to say she faked her own death. She's just sort of there. Maybe it's explained in the comic, but the comic is so poorly written I can't even read it. And then you get to Zol. Now, you remember I mentioned Oryx, this Hive King. He made a deal with the Worm Gods. 5 incredibly powerful beings who have power to reshape reality itself.
Wow.
Yes. And one of these 5 is the Worm God Zol.
Okay.
Now, in the Warmind campaign, somehow Zol has gotten to Mars and been frozen beneath the surface. Don't know how that stopped, again, a creature capable of bending reality.
Yeah.
And got frozen on the surface for a few hundred years. So then it breaks out, and you need to go kill it. You, with your gun, need to kill a god.
Someone who can rewrite all of reality, and I'm supposed to go after him with just a gun.
Now, this isn't actually unheard of in Destiny. We've killed quite a few gods ourselves, but that's because we didn't deep into the depths of the universe and turned their power against them. We dealt with mind-bending concepts of time travel and paracausality to kill these things, and some of them we didn't even properly kill because they are so interwoven with basic principles of life and death. They cannot be killed because killing them gives them life. Imagine that.
Gosh.
And Zoli's one of these beings, and then we kill him with a big glowy stick. Seriously. You charge up a spear with MacGuffin Rasputin energy, hit him a few times with it, and he dies. Now, I will give Bungie a tiny modicum of credit in that they have retconned his death somewhat, and that by killing him, you proved his logic that death becomes life. So by killing him, you actually rebirthed him and made him stronger, and now he's in a sniper rifle you use. Which
Whoa.
No. Listen, the sword logic is so weird and complex and based in theoretical notions of psychology, and it'd take an entire episode to get into the sword logic. But anyway. But this isn't even the first time Bungie's done this. In Destiny 2, they have basically retconned a bunch of stuff because it's inconvenient for the story they want to tell.
Man.
Which is disrespectful to the fans that love the story and have, obsessed over the story, trying to figure out anything. And it's disrespectful to the writers. This is Destiny's, I think, 4th writing team at this point.
4th writing team.
They go through them so fast.
Well, that explains why everything keeps getting rewritten. Gosh.
Yeah, and at this point, it seems like the writers don't want to tell stories for Destiny. They want to tell stories in Destiny. They want to take their Star Wars stories or their Star Trek stories that they couldn't quite pitch to the rights holders, and they just want to sort of refit them for Destiny.
Man!
Yeah, and again, Bungie's done this before. When Halo Reach came out, it basically retconned the entirety of the Fall of Reach book that came out a month before the original Halo. And Bungie's response to this? Yeah, that's not canon anymore, so just throw your copy in the fireplace.
And this came out before the Halo series came out, right? The book?
It came out 1 month before the first Halo game released. It was canon longer than the game itself. And it's just...
Oh, man.
Bungie doesn't know what it's doing with this story. It keeps handing it from person to person. It's pretty much unrecognizable to Joseph Staten's original vision for Destiny that we've seen little bits and pieces of, but was completely torn apart and Frankenstein back together before the game launched.
I remember seeing a little bit of a concept art of the original Destiny. We were supposed to see a lot of moth people, one that looked very similar to the Taken King.
Yeah, it looks like that may have been early concept art for what the Hive were supposed to be like, but if you watch the original reveal trailer from E3 2013 for Destiny, there are characters that appear in completely different roles with completely different names. There are complete plot points that have been removed. You see bits of areas that don't appear until a year later in the next big expansion that just got cut from the game.
Wow.
Destiny is a mess. And Bungie is still scrambling to put it back together from a massive reboot in 2013. 5 years later, and two massive reboots, because Destiny 2 also got a massive reboot about 16 months before it came out, which is way too late in production to be rebooting a major AAA title.
I think it might be because of the fact that that Bungie has a lot of high expectations about Destiny. Because I remember, I personally didn't really get to play Destiny 2 much, ladies and gentlemen, but I remember around the time that this was being announced that Bungie was ramping this up to be the greatest installment of every game they'd ever made. And they said this was supposed to be the game that was supposed to surpass Halo in every aspect. From shootings to enemies, to the lore, to the worlds. And I think it might be potentially because of the fact that they are trying so hard to make this the most epic game that Bungie has in stock, that they're willing to sacrifice bits of lore in order to keep fans interested and involved into the world.
Bungie is an unattended child. Let me explain this.
Okay.
We know that Bungie was actually pretty eager to stop working with Microsoft after the Halo series to have a bit more independence, and Activision offered that to them. They bought themselves back from Microsoft, and according to reports, when they were in the theater when it was announced, there was a huge celebration among the employees.
Yeah.
And one Microsoft executive was was visibly surprised because they thought they treated them pretty well. And I think it's that Microsoft did treat them well, but they didn't give them too much independence. Because Bungie's a child. You give them crayons, they will draw on everything. It was Microsoft's job as the parent, the responsible parent, to keep them from drawing on the walls. No, stay on the paper. Sure, you can draw outside the lines a bit, but don't draw on the walls, please. And don't have a mess in your pants. And then Bungie grows up a bit. It gets the rebellious teenager phase. It doesn't want to live with its responsible parent. It wants to live with its cool dad across the country.
Man.
The one that lets it drink soda for breakfast. Papa Activision lets me do whatever I want. And then it goes there. And yeah, Papa Activision does let it do whatever it wants as long as Papa Activision gets its money rolling in. And Bungie doesn't know what to do with that. It doesn't know what to do with this freedom. It's never had this freedom. It doesn't know how to deal with it. So they just do whatever they want. And they screw up everything. And sure, they try to fix it, and they fix it for a while, and then they screw something up royally again, and people lose faith in Bungie. Rightfully.
Yeah, I mean, that is a very good point. I remember, because from what I'm hearing so far about how people were very, very involved in the original lore of Destiny and how things were kept rapidly changing and whatnot, it makes me think a little bit of the Star Wars franchise. Because when it first started off, it was a really good trilogy, episodes 4 through 6. But the reason why they were so good was because George Lucas was very restrained by the company that he was working with. He had a lot of ideas, and most of those ideas that didn't go into the film were for the best because a lot of those ideas were not very good ideas. But eventually, in the end, he got so popular with the Star Wars franchise, he decided, you know what, I'm going to have the complete and total rights to the Star Wars trilogy. Now I'm going to do the prequels. And with the prequels, he had complete and total control of this series. He had absolutely nothing holding him back. Nobody telling him, hey, Mr. Lucas, you can't do that. That people are not going to like that. That's going to cause problems. No, he was able to have full-on rights to everything. And once he started to get to do that, he started to alter certain little bits of the Star Wars franchise, little tidbits here and there. Suddenly, the vibe that we had gotten from the original trilogy just didn't feel the same anymore because he wanted to take this to just appease more and more people. And that's kind of what I think about when it comes to the Destiny franchise. When they started off decent. I mean, we can all admit that vanilla Destiny doesn't really seem the most aesthetically pleasing, but the DLC packs were pretty good.
Aesthetically, I love it.
Yeah? Well, that's good. But then with Destiny 2, it kind of feels like that's George Lucas suddenly having his own complete and total control of the trilogies. Destiny's now able to do whatever they want, so now they're going to rewrite some stuff in order to make it to where they think people are going to love it in their own image.
Yeah, and no. I'm just... Here, you know what? I'm taking a minute.
Okay.
This, in case you ever visit, is directly to the head of Bungie, Jason Jones. Jason, I know you had a fight with Joe. I know he left, and I know you wanted to rewrite the story in your own way. But it's not working. You need to go apologize. You need to go try to get him back. Okay? Because it would win you points with the fans, and probably get you a better story than what you're getting. Because Warmond's story, really, that was written in a year? You have to realize how bad that is. So go apologize. I know it's hard, but go try to get him back. Thank you.
Now, of course, that is, our personal opinions and recommendations. If you don't wish to do so, that's fine, but Brian here is clearly a master of the trilogy. He's more invested in it than I am, and I agree. Just try and find a way to repair things. Things would do pretty well. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that about wraps it up for the episode of the Phone Booth. Brian, do you have any last words?
No, I sort of got all of it out back there.
Good to hear, man. Good to hear. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that about does it for our program. Please stay tuned. We have some more good content coming up here on KXVS, the voice of Stockton. Until then, my name is Ed Heitman, and joining me in the studio is my good friend and co-host, Brian Rodriguez. Thank you very much for listening to our show, and have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon.